You did fine. You were absolutely fine last time.
Well, that's very nice of you to say that, but all the same, professionalism first.
Well, it is this show. Hello and welcome back. You're listening to the podcast Let's Drone Out. Tonight you are joined by Belric Stephen.
Hello.
Everyone's favourite curry kitten.
Hello.
Everyone's favourite YouTube's dead. Help, we're making no money, but check out iNav and shove your shitty VTX tables up your asshole. Pawel Spychalski.
Hello.
Yeah, you got it right first time. How long were you practicing the name?
He's been on the show quite a few times now, hopefully.
That would be like the fourth time, maybe fifth.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for not getting cancelled. I'm actually you guys can continue the argument about, I believe Stephen hasn't do you know what, I've forgotten
built his horrible
this is the thing,
quadcopter and plane because he was too busy trying to get his 6S quad to fly on 8S and desyncing the motors.
Yes, Stephen was saying that all servos are bad and it would be much better. He could build a much better
with the exception of heli servos, which cost inordinate amounts of money and are therefore not a realistic choice.
All right, 199 servos versus your horrible quad plane build if it ever gets done.
Yeah.
But good question:
okay.
How do you want to install those motors on this flying wing? Like
I was thinking
VTOL or just.
Oh right, so VTOL. No, you misunderstood. The image I'm going for is more a quad with a wing attached to it, not something as sophisticated as a VTOL. Take a quad, for example, and then pair it with a wing attached onto its butt like so, and like this.
It's a quad attached to a VTOL.
This is more sophisticated than I mean. Look, you've even directed the motors. I was just going to literally take it on a carbon fiber X, so it's rigid, and then I thought, well, when we're going fast, the wing will like save some battery, so we'll tow a wing, and it'll just kind of.
But the drag will be a problem.
The drag will be a problem, but we'll get lift as well. So you win some, you lose some. We'll see. It was an experiment, and like I said, I think I've built 3 quads since. And this week I went and ordered a new frame. I contacted Mr. Sub 250 gram and got him to send me his crazy little 2-inch 1S. Like, it looks like a little 5-inch quad, but smaller. It's very cute. More on that.
What I'm hearing is a lot of stalling and not a lot of building of.
Yeah, you are correct. Yeah, and then I decided to buy a cheap H7 and spent a long time talking to Betaflight devs about why the H7 doesn't initialize at CSCs and what buying a really cheap H7 actually means. I've got a Matek one,
H7,
which is wonderful, which I noticed iNav supports, but makes no claim to support everything else. And the reason is because some of them are really cheap, really, really cheap, and they don't behave themselves.
But which H7?
This is a JEMTU. Yeah. And it's an AIO with 40 amp ESCs and an H743. And on paper, looks amazing. In practice, 2 out of the 4 motors really don't want to wake up.
There's a bug. There's a bug in Betaflight 4.3.
It's definitely software because I've got it to initialize at least half the time, but I have to enable debug mode, which disables the optimizations in Betaflight, and then it initializes more often than when I don't enable debug, which optimizes the code.
Which is not the cheapest. So yeah, there's some problem on the unified target for H7, and I think every H7 that uses the unified target and uses
very new.
Those, yes, it's just...
And I think that it's got new DMA mux. The way it handles everything is new with H7. It's so far away from what the F series is. It's untrue. And
funny fact, it was working perfectly fine with 4.2. It's something that happened between 4.2 and 4.3. I know because Diaton asked me to investigate it.
I've seen the issue for Diaton. Yeah.
I said, no, I'm not fixing that. It happened somewhere during the last year. I'm not fixing that. Sorry.
But I'm sure it's going to be amazing when it does fly. But for now, yeah, it's a bench boy.
So I was just going to say, Pawel's on. What's new in iNav and stuff?
iNav and stuff. 4.1.
4?
There's a small person just come behind you, Pawel.
Interloper.
Papa.
Where's your hired help to drag them out by its leg? Like the amazing.
iNav 4.1. It will probably happen in the first half of the February. The release candidate for that happened like a week ago or something. So far, nobody reported any problems, so we have to assume it's working. But it's a minor update, nothing really super fancy. Besides the SD card support for the H7s, some at least of them, the new dynamic notches, which are pretty cool, and something else. Some bug
see
fixes.
HD0 OSD, so people can fly that now.
Yeah, HD0 OSD, exactly, in this thing. So hopefully some people will be happy, and now we have to wait until the DJI releases the canvas mode for their system, which will never happen.
No,
that would be awesome.
No. Another 20 years when it's obsolete and someone reverse engineers it, that's when it's going to happen. That's when we'll get canvas mode.
It will never happen.
So have you bought HD0 to get a proper OSD on your digital flight now?
No, I actually moved out from anything analog and pseudo analog, like even HD0. I have a set somewhere over there in this part of my attic, but somehow I'm not really convinced about the HD0. So for me, it's currently the DJI FPV all the way.
Having the full OSD is nice, but
the OSD is limited. Yeah, let's be honest, the OSD over there is just crap. But it works out of the box, no hassle with everything. I put everything, go flying, and it works. Up to those few kilometers, absolutely no problem. So just why not? And it was a nice reason for me to limit the amount of flying things I have. Because I never wanted to upgrade everything. So, okay, am I flying that? No. Am I flying that? No.
Yeah, I've still got a lot of analog builds. There's probably a thick coat of dust on them. Some of those now.
I'm pretty sure there is. No, in my case, it's mainly the storage space. I have very limited storage space over here, so I'm not flying. I'm either giving this thing away or I'm selling.
Since we last spoke, you've kind of aggressively changed the numbers on iNav. You were in the 2s for ages, and then all of a sudden you bravely surged ahead to 3 and now to 4. And
red kite, blue kite.
I have
Is
no
this
idea.
all a big tactic to overtake Betaflight on the numbers? So iNav looks newer.
It's we were shy about increasing the major version. And that was kind of misleading because we were landing with those 2.6.1, 3.0.1, and there is this thing in the programming called the SEMVer,
semantic
versioning, where every time you release the major version, you should increase the major version number. Every time you release the minor, you increase the minor. And the difference between the major and the minor is that as long as they are compatible, it's a minor. But since every bigger release we are removing functions, adding functions, renaming stuff, so diffs are no longer compatible. So those are major releases. So okay, let's just go. It will be just simple because 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 instead of nobody knew why this is 2, why this is 3, and so on. I think it's for the best.
No one wants to read the errata. You just want to look at the big number.
Yeah, exactly. Not yet sure about the name. Somehow there is a lot of resistance on that area, but it doesn't hurt anyone. So we will see how the name will go.
Excellent. So do you have a list of prospective names? Do you have some kind of crazy algorithm for names?
No.
Okay.
No, I was scouting for the name for the next release, but so far no luck, and I'm not sure if the 4.1, the one that will release next week probably will.
You've
be
called them
still
both Red Kite, and then why are they both Red Kite? You can't have the two releases with the same name. Surely the software police will be around your door.
Okay.
Flying Beaver.
Okay, I'm convinced. I will have to figure out something.
Flying Beaver.
There you
Flying
are.
Beaver.
Yeah.
But beavers don't fly.
Beaver will be a
No.
ground vehicle, which is still within the remit of iNav.
What
Has
about a
it gotta
falling
be a
beaver? They
flying?
could fall.
Yeah. Flying Squirrel. That's a good name.
Raging Sparrow. Oh, this is not
Raging Sparrow. Now
Raging Sparrow.
that lends itself to a good logo, I think.
Yeah. If only
Sounds a
I
bit
was able to
Like
do
a
some
euphemism. Like you'd say, "Hey, I've got a raging sparrow right now. Come over and
That's just my
simulate."
trousers.
graphics. Better Raging Sparrow than Raging Willy.
Well, you know,
Some words.
those amber sound packs can get a bit spicy. Saucy, shall I say. What is your shirt, Curry, by the way? Is it I?
It's not very exciting. It says, "I fit."
Oh, no.
This is what happens last year when I did 100 workouts on my bike. They sent me a T-shirt.
100, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, I did something like 180 something by the end of the year.
Wow.
but You don't get
That's
anything
nice.
for that.
Every second day is nice.
Are you still getting the whole like Apple Watch and Starbucks for walking and stuff? Is that
Yeah, they changed
the
it though.
thing?
Because I haven't. Yes, that's the. We're talking about insurance companies here, like Vitality Health, give you benefits for exercising because that way they don't have to pay for you to go and have so much
right.
medical.
So if you
treatment.
tie your watch onto your kid's bike, then that works.
Yeah, or you could just hold your watch and shake it about. But yeah, if you get like X number of points, they'll give you a free coffee every week, which I haven't claimed for about 2 years now because I don't want to go to coffee houses. And then it was free cinema tickets. Those worked out well in the last couple of years. And Amazon Prime is another one they do. Yeah, so yeah, I still get that.
Stephen, your camera seems to have frozen.
Yeah, my camera's frozen, my audio's gone crackly, and I'm like, oh great, this again.
Oh
Maybe
no.
it's just really, really still.
Have
Yeah.
you tried turning it off and on again?
Thank you. I appreciate your assistance. Give me a second.
That is a true tech support hero.
Lurgies.
One can
Lurgies.
One can only try.
Yeah, Lurgy says, wasn't Raging Sparrow an 80s punk band?
It sounds like it should have been one, even if it wasn't.
Punk, I was never really much into that thing, so no idea. But if anybody has any other proposals for the next iNav name, just throw them in the air. Let's see.
You know, I didn't know it had a code name, but I think it's a good idea because saying like major versions of something is less exciting than saying a name of a release, especially if it's a memorable one, be it Red Kite or Raging Sparrow. I like that. Carry on.
Well,
it's a
it
good
doesn't
idea.
hurt anything, probably.
I don't think so.
So why not? Come on.
It trips off the tongue easier than I'm running 4.1.6.
Definitely. 4.2, 4.11.
No.
What's the situation in the UK, gents? What's up there?
Well, with COVID or flying?
No,
or...
just like RC, FPV, living, the general stuff.
It's been a bit cold this week. I built a plane just today, and it looks like this. This is
cutie.
really.
Is that brushed? Oh, it's brushless.
There's brushless, but it's what happens when I raid my spare bits. So it's got that is off like a stack, and that's just buried into the
rush.
foam, and that's the camera. But this is to test out Express LRS using PWM. I got one of those little PWM boards.
What, the converter?
it's a straight thing. So it's from Happy Model, and it's the receiver, but the receiver runs a firmware that puts out 4 channels of full range PWM. So if you're not using a flight controller, and that's just a very basic, directly attached to the servos, then that works. So that's what I've got.
Yeah.
I thought that'd be a
Matec
fun
is
test.
even making those small boards exactly.
Yeah,
the same.
Matec does them as well.
Yeah. So that's pretty useful, because it's really hard recently to find a small receiver that has at least those 3 PWM channels. Super irritating.
Yeah. Oh, we got a thing from Caroline. I fit like iNav. If only.
I fit like iNav. Yeah, it's capital A. Not I. Capital I.
No, today we learn the alphabet with Pawel.
Alphabet with Pawel, maybe not the best early idea. I don't know why.
I don't know about
No, please.
everyone
Thank you,
else in the
Caroline.
world, but this week's been a bit on the windy side. I wanted to get out and fly some stuff, but windy, and my field, if anybody's seen it recently where I've been flying, it's still a lake. It's not been raining, but it's not been drying off either. So I'm a bit worried about flying that little plane, because I have to land in a spot this big, else it'll just sink into the mud. But we'll try what we can. Very good, Jack.
That's not nice. Over here.
Oh, Stephen, you're moving. That's good.
Yeah. God knows. Different USB
Over
port.
here, the weather is abysmal. Really like abysmal since the basically beginning of the November. The flying days for me were like 3. I most probably was only flying 3 times since the beginning of the November. It's either cold or it's raining, or we have those storms, or it's cold or it's raining, really like a nightmare. So I would like to fly. I would like to go
It's
out.
so cold here right now.
I went to fly today and it was freezing cold. It was horrible and windy and everything's wet.
So
It's
the wind,
so
isn't it?
muddy.
But last week was actually pretty nice because the wind died down and it was just cold, and you can deal with just cold. But when you've got that wind chill factor as well, forget it. It's just miserable.
Sorry.
Well, and also that you go out at 4 o'clock and think you might go for a fly, and it's too dark to fly. It's not great either.
You've left it
I
too
had
late
to
at 4
get
o'clock.
special low light cameras to fly it past 3:30 in the afternoon now.
Yeah.
You need to.
if you-
Then again, it's no good when you go in midday and the sun's just up to the perfect height where it's just hitting you in the eyes all the time, and you just go squinting all the time, and then you realise like, oh, this camera's not so good for facing the sun as it turns out. Especially if Jack's
wish
got the dodgy
there
one.
was
What
sun.
was that camera, Jack, that was misbehaving and
Oh,
with rapid fire?
shall I?
And how old is it? And how cheap
Mate, it
is
could
it?
be your VTX, I guess.
Yeah, hang on. Desktop. I'm using a tramp, a full size tramp, and I'm using the Foxeer Razor.
Oh, that's new.
Yeah. So, and hang on, I will share my screen and show you the lovely desync. Hang on. There we go.
It's a bit of a swerve, isn't it?
It's
Oh,
good, isn't it? 'Cause
Juicy.
for those
Oh, that's
seconds while the screen does that, you're like, oh, I hope I don't crash. That was a very quick one. I've had it where the screen is very slowly moving across, and you're like, uh-oh, this is bad. Which bit do I look at?
Mind you, do you see this I think is kind of expected when you're doing a bit of amateur flying. I was watching recently Tommy Tabajo, I'm not sure how you say it, Umagod, right? Doing his professional video work.
Another one.
He lost video over the water and dunked it in like Antarctica or something with no GPS.
He lost a drone.
I know. Like
No,
what?
GPS.
Most people don't fly with them though, especially when they're doing like commercial shoots, because it's very rare. I suppose they're flying off a mile
Flying
out
over
to sea
water
to
in
follow up.
Antarctica. He was really well prepared. He brought like 3 of everything, but he flew with no GPS in Antarctica over water.
I really don't get those super expensive like video rigs flying Betaflight, not even without GPS. Like, come on,
At least,
fly!
come on, give yourself a fighting chance. Carry the extra 10 grams of a GPS receiver, and
Yes,
you know,
exactly. And if
what's the
you
worst
really
that can happen if it's going to fail safe anyway?
if you have seen a lifter that 10 grams, nobody will really notice where I think there is one company that is trying currently to put cine lifters and all those heavy cinematic craft with iNav.
Why are people not using iNav? Have you talked to any of the professionals about that?
No, I said there's one company.
Okay.
Should I say the name? Am I allowed to say the name of the company?
I don't know.
Think
You're
so.
the one.
Yeah.
Well, there's no problem with us saying it.
No.
Yeah, so it's Catalyst Machine Works.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, they have this series of cine lifters. They are just pre-installing with iNav. So this thing really, if you have a failsafe, will return to home and land.
Right.
And if you carry a few $1,000s of the camera on this thing, it kind of makes sense, right?
I think people labor under the view of kind of what iNav was 4 years ago or something. And I've seen you freestyle iNav. That's not bad footage. That doesn't seem to be performing badly at all. But people still seem to think it was iNav back in the olden days.
I think it's rather the name. I think the name is the problem. Not the problem. People assume that it's navigation only, and you cannot really do stuff with this thing. And let's be honest, Betaflight has majority of the market and period, and nobody is even trying to fight.
If we're going by names, Betaflight sounds like it would crash. I mean, it just
it's better, right?
Yeah.
But no, I think it's to some extent it's lack of knowledge, and I don't want to say ignorance, but there's something like that.
Perception.
Maybe something like that. Okay, Betaflight flies great on my racer, so I will also use this because it's there. Okay, it's a free word, so why not? But I really find this really super interesting.
Well, so you need to fork iNav and give it a better name.
I was thinking about
there was
a suggestion.
There was a suggestion that Tommy's quads was using KISS, which would be something completely different. But I guess one of the things about them, because I know he uses very small quads as well, tries to keep it compact, and iNav does kind of insist on using a compass with a GPS, and normally that means you've got a stalk somewhere trying to get it away from the magnetic interference.
Oh, you know where we're going now, Pawel.
Well,
why can't iNav just use a GPS? Why do I need a magnetometer? Why?
Because a drone can fly in any direction.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But you can work out what way it's going by examining GPS where it was and where it is now, and then you can determine its direction.
Yeah, but it has to be moving.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be moving. So the best you can have.
I'm not suggesting we could have iNav full featured on just a GPS, because that wouldn't be possible. But what about iNav Lite? There's a new name for you.
But why?
iNav Lite if you've just got a GPS.
No, let me show you something, because this is interesting.
All right.
It's a 4-incher.
Mm-hmm.
Small, right? Do you have anywhere a GPS mast?
You've got it sticking out the back then, have you?
Yes, just like any other regular GPS with the Betaflight quad. Exactly the same. Nothing special. Runs full iNav. Absolutely no problem. Return to home, position, hold, everything. Landing, takeoff.
Doesn't your VTX get in the way of that?
No,
but
the only problem
everyone's always saying, magnetometer, put the magnetometer near other components, it doesn't work, blah, blah, blah.
No. You cannot put magnetometer close to a source of magnetic field. And what is the source of the magnetic field? Motors, metals, but metal actually can be calibrated, eliminated using the calibration, and the high current wires. And that's all. Everything else is basically safe. And rule of thumb for the 5-7 inches is you have to keep the magnetometer around 5 centimeters, 2 inches from those elements. But if you have something smaller, which less current, so the magnetic fields are weaker, you can go much closer. This thing is
long range 4-inch with 1404 motors or something small.
That's how many? Yeah, exactly. This is 1404, and still, even with this, I was able to put the magnetometer almost 5 centimeters from each motor. Very similar range to the wires, and the closest thing that there is the Vista, which is like 2.5 centimeters, 1 inch, and it's working perfectly. Absolutely no problem. So I know that people would like to see iNav running everything without the magnetometer because it's simpler. But why? It's not better. It's only simpler. It's a simplification of the solution. It's not the solution.
So what we need then is a new video series from Pawel called "How to Run iNav on a Small Build Without a Stupid-Looking Stalk Coming Out the Top of Your Quad."
Why not?
Or a catchier title, up to you.
No, I think this is a catchy title.
Help! I run beta flight, but I don't want to lose my quad. Would be the name of the series.
That's okay. That's what rescue mode's for. That's like, oh, let's have some fun and see if the Exocet missile comes back to hit me.
Oh, the hit me part is the best one. No, really, the fact that Betaflight just shut down motor and that drops, it scares me. Really scares me.
You better hope you're at least 100 meters away, because if you're not,
yeah. Oh, yeah, that's the point, isn't it? There's like a minimum
cutoff with
radius.
beta flight. Yeah. Unless you're 100
Yeah, by
meters,
default it's 200
fail-safe.
meters. If you try and engage it within there, it goes back to drop. Down it goes.
Yeah, drop. And talking about iNav, you can also run iNav without the GPS, and it's worked perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And some people even say that it on 7 inches work much better than the Betaflight on defaults, no tuning at all. But it's fine. It's fine. Like I mentioned, Betaflight is the most popular firmware, and that's fine. I fly what I build. I fly what I develop. And be honest, majority of the features I added to the iNav was because A, I like developing, I like programming. B, it gives me fun, and C, I like this thing to share. And if people want to join this experience, fantastic. Beta enough, no. Stable. Oh, I know. It will be a stable flight. That's a good name.
Gamma Nav.
Just move it on. Delta Nav.
Delta
one
sounds
out from
good.
beta. Yeah.
Delta, Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Omicron. Oh!
Oh my god.
No, I was thinking a few times
Sigma
about
flight
forking, but why? Why? So
all right, this is something I need to check out. I will go and install iNav on a few quads. I will do one without a GPS and see how it flies on default, because we all like not having to tune. And then I will attempt to install a proper GPS compass, but without the silly stalk on the back, making sure I'm about 5 centimeters away, see if it's possible. That sounds like a fun experiment.
We can install it without the navigation features, though, right?
Yes.
On a quad.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Setup,
I've done it on rovers, but
setup
never a quad.
comparing to Betaflight will be like, there will be this extra step of you will have to calibrate the accelerometer, because you will not take
Why
off.
is that? What's with the rotation?
The thing is, the accelerometers have 3 axes, and nobody says that up and down on each axis is the same. So we know that the gravity is 1g. So what we do is that we measure how much on each axis accelerometer reads up and down. Try to 0, because nobody says if the accelerometer reports 0, it's really 0. So we try to measure that, and also to get the error of if the 1G is really 1G. If you do not use navigation, this is excessive. I agree 100%. This is excessive procedure and not required. But since you might engage navigation any possible moment, it kind of needed. But why? Because accelerometer is used to compute the position, to assist in position computation. So because when you move left, that means that the acceleration on the axis will be measured. And if you know the acceleration and period of time, you can compute how much the quad basically moved in that direction. And because GPS is updated with the 5, maybe 10 hertz, depending on what you have there, it's kind of useful to know where quad is comparing to the previous measurement, even between the GPS updates. And this is why we basically calibrate all 6 axes.
You care a lot more about it than Betaflight, which is just like, is it 90 degrees or 180 degrees round? Is it upside down? Done. Move on. Okay, so it's proper calibration.
Yes, exactly. And this is the biggest difference, to be honest, between Betaflight and iNav right now, from the setup perspective. And iNav has less targets, okay. Fair to that, but from the setup perspective, really, that's basically all.
What I was going to say is, I will give this to Betaflight. When I was testing out with my awful F450, trying to get it flying in order to install OpenHD on it, whilst it was completely unflyable when I was trying to fly it in FPV, and I was like, oh, this is horrendous, I can't land this, I would just flick it into return to home, and iNav would do a much better job than me and bring it back quite safely.
No, because most probably the squad will be also unflyable with iNav.
It was fine. iNav managed to bring it down.
Yeah. Really?
I mean, it landed, but it was
it
still
landed.
It got back, it flew the quad and got back a lot better than I managed to do with it.
No, the thing with those old quads is that comparing to what we have right now and to what the defaults are tuned right now, is that the motors were much weaker and much less torquey comparing to what we have right now. It's not really.
And they were smaller as well, even for the same size
exactly.
motor.
And this means that was just much less torque. It's not really thrust to weight ratio. It's of how much torque the motor can deliver, so that it can start to spin up or slow down the propeller faster, so can do the stabilization faster. This is one. And B is that those frames are super flexible. That means if the motor will just hit this frequency of the resonance of the frame, everything immediately starts to vibrate. And usually this is in the frequencies that even right now, with those modern tunes, we say, okay, this is how fast the pilot can move the sticks. So it's not even, you cannot even filter that out. And they really like fly horribly, comparing to the modern standards. And you cannot fix that.
I think what you fail to account for is the massive amount of sentimentality and nostalgia that might be present in certain elements of the FPV community.
Yes.
There is certainly an element of the rose-tinted glasses when going back to an old platform. And like, this is going to work great because it always used to fly great. This is horrible. Actually, it always used to be horrible.
Oh, look at what Jack's got. The blast from the past. You know what's a really great idea? If you had a circuit board as part of your frame, thereby saving weight and ensuring that on the first crash you broke all of your electronics.
I have a ZMR 250 somewhere there, exactly with the same PDB.
Just one? Just one?
No, just one. Just one.
With the OSD and
yes, exactly.
I can't wait for this to short out on carbon fiber.
Do you still have your plywood quad?
Yes. Yes, I do. I'm not using that. It's only the frame, and it's only used as the Christmas ornament. But yeah, the plywood source one is there, and over there is the wooden 10-incher. That one flies amazing.
Really?
Yeah. Wait a second.
Well, wood absorbs resonance. It's amazing.
I'm guessing it's good components. It just happens that the frame is wood.
You need to brace it a lot.
Yeah. It's wood.
Wow.
It's better than good. It's wood.
It's plywood. 3mm plywood is a center. Arms are real spruce. I know that. I made it myself, so I know it. But I built this frame like in 2016 for a project I had like that, and last year I just refurbished that. But comparing to how it was flying like those 5 years previously, the difference are the motors. Those are not the motors we are using
They look a little
back
chunky.
then. Those are 35, 36.
Bit
They have
torque, yeah.
so much torque that this thing just screams in the air, and it's super stable and super fun
You
to
can
fly.
filter out any vibration. The plywood's not a problem.
Absorbs it.
Oh, cool.
If anything, that's kind of why wood was really good back in the olden days. It used to all the gumminess of it.
Yeah.
You know.
Do you have to store it in a brace like an old tennis racket, like in one of those clamped frames to stop it warping?
No. If anything goes wrong, I can just replace the arms.
Just remember the old tennis rackets where you'd have like a clamp frame you put round.
Yeah, but they're under tension though. That's the whole, you know, because of the string and it changes the temperature. I think that's what the big deal of it is. I'm not looking forward to playing with the Micro Min OSD. That is going to be the worst.
Why?
They were pretty good back in the day. The only problem I had was actually soldering one up because it was quite an awkward shape. But yours is on the PCB itself. That should be fine.
No, it's not. You have
to put pins
attach the angle pins.
I thought you said yours was on the PCB.
No, it only has the place for the PCB.
Just a layout for that.
Okay. It takes some practice to do it.
I've still got my one up on my old what was it? The ZMR 250. I've still got that. That's running Clean Flight something with the Minim in there. That was like magic at the time. You could go in and you could change the PIDs. My goodness, crazy times.
Without a screwdriver.
No screwdriver necessary. I'm going to
build. Showing us last time the board with the potentiometers and a screwdriver.
This year, Pawel, for my 10-year anniversary flying FPV, I'm going to go back and I'm going to build a quad using the oldest components I have around, including a KK1 board with old motors, just so I can use a screwdriver to adjust my gains. That's the fun thing about it.
Don't encourage him.
It's going to happen. It's going to happen. It's going to fly great.
Do it.
Well, I look forward to seeing your neighbours take it down off their roof. It's going to be entertaining.
Yes, we don't do hovers in the gardens with experimental builds.
We
go far away.
That MR250 last year, also with the oldest components I could find. The only not really like ancient stuff were the motors, because the motors were Emax red bottoms. 2205, so like, you know, slightly better than usually what was there.
Great stuff.
But no, this doesn't fly great. No.
No. I don't think the expectation is it to fly great, but I thought it'd be fun to take it out and crash it a bit.
Yes.
See how long it lasts.
The fun factor will be pretty nice, and the nostalgia factor, definitely.
And Jack's got his to fly.
I don't have any old builds. I was saying the other day that I used to have one of those rubbish AR drones that was all polystyrene and Wi-Fi controlled.
Oh, God.
Yeah. That's about as old as I go. I wasn't building my own back then, I'm afraid to say.
I don't...
Just a pretender.
There we go. Look, we've got another Son and Dad FPV. Still flies wooden tricopter from flight test with KK. Not just me. Not that I fly
it's
money.
Still flying.
Like
that implies that he hasn't smashed
bricks.
it to bits in 5 years. Wow.
I know. I need to find another KK board because my one's like dead, unfortunately. So I want to like repair mine, like reflow the chips off it, and you know reflash it and get it all back and working.
You're so
it's
fussy.
Like a
Why don't you just build
version of
an original
the medieval
KK from
fair
scratch?
with Jack? Well, it's like it
Two
all has to be
people
authentic.
talking.
Sorry.
Yeah. Who wants to go first?
Curry.
I said, as you're so into this building thing, why don't you go back to the original plans and build your own KK board, or rip apart a Wii controller and build an original multi-Wii?
Oh man, I don't.
Where do you think all the code came from? It's multi-Wii.
Yeah,
go back to the origins, man.
Don't tempt me. The only
if
thing
you
is,
have Arduino, then go for it.
this board doesn't accept multi-wii, it accepts NAS, CC3D, and SP3.
It will accept anything you want if you solder.
You have a soldering iron?
Correctly.
Yeah.
Make it happen. You've got a soldering iron, you've got a hammer. Anything's possible.
Bloody
multi-wii.
multi-wii.
A multi-wii is one of the few boards I don't think I tried.
They were amazing. But like, they're
well
no
ahead
good
of
for
the time.
H frame. No good for a H frame. You've got to have like an X shape frame.
Why?
And it will only run PWM as well.
Funny fact,
So-
whatever you fly today is multi-wii.
Yeah. true.
MSP.
Everything that we fly right now comes from the multi-wii. Including some of the names that are inside. And for example, Betaflight Mixer is exactly the same mixer like in the multi-wii, only simplified.
If it isn't
What-
broken.
What happened to all the like? Speaking of old, do you remember the different controllers? There was Float. There was Harry Cuckoo or something.
Harakiri, yeah.
Harakiri, yeah.
Yeah.
What was it?
Those were all forks of the base flight. And the only controller that took traction, that forked from the base flight, was the clean flight. So basically what happened, maybe you remember, for in the like 2015-16, you was able to choose the PID controller, including the Harakiri, for example. But at one point, like okay, no, screw it, no, we are not playing that. There's only one PID controller, good, and that's all. But all the other projects, including Harakiri, they just died because the majority of the open source projects just die. And that's.
Was there a valid reason to have more than one PID controller?
No. Actually,
Okay.
no. There is not a reason to have it.
Auto tune. I'm glad that is no longer a thing. That thing was deadly. I remember it was just like that, shot right up, flipped upside down, and then sucked itself to the floor, and then just like literally landed in front of me, nearly killing me.
I took.
That was horrendous.
But was it tuned afterwards?
No, of course not. It
No.
flew even worse.
I took a look at the because I'm working for the auto tune for iNav. That was working when I was able to fly before the weather just broke. I took a look at, for example, what this auto tune from Harakiri was doing, and like, really, this thing tilts a quad? But why? How? How is that even possible? So yeah, interesting. But the Ardu Pilot has something like an auto tune. Maybe not really tuning exactly the same PIDs as we are tuning, but it has, and it's in the documentation, and you can use it if you want to. And people don't say it's falling down from the sky, so maybe there's something to it.
But like,
Just-
you see RC test fly, and the stuff that he gets to fly with that is incredible.
Yeah.
Or the ground effect and everything, and
That funny fact, Betaflight can do exactly the same. iNav can do exactly the same. No, really, honestly, I know it, because it's only a mixer. No matter what's going on, the stabilization itself, it's always yaw pitch, and roll. Only 3 axes. If you tune the stabilization, and no matter what you are flying, driving, or doing, or even submarine, it's roll, pitch, and yaw. And then you only have to translate the output of the 3 axes to actuators, motors, servos, whatever you have over there. And if you can set up a mixer for what you are flying, then you're basically done. Yes, Ardu Pilot in this area is slightly better because it has support for a better support. Like, for example, you can have a submarine and some how it's called, drifting cars. So yeah, they have extra stuff. But doing this kind of stuff he's doing, it's doable even with Betaflight. Maybe not the navigation part, but the stabilization for sure. But by the way, I was talking to that guy like 2 or 3 years ago about one of his projects that he never really took off again. It was, I think, the flying stick with the motors at the bottom and at the top. He was testing something. Back then it was flying with Betaflight. He wanted to go with iNav because then iNav could invert the rotation. But it never went somewhere, but most probably it's doable. If you only want to. You have to want to.
With ArduPilot, it seems like it can do a lot, but it feels like it's kind of a self-selecting audience of really smart people because it's really hard to get ArduPilot running to start with.
Yeah, the user interface is abysmal.
Challenging. Yeah.
No, abysmal. That's it's just abysmal.
Even in the best of Daniel's videos, I still see it flashing up on the mission planner. Compass is crazy and stuff, which is pretty much my experience with ArduPilot, where I sit there waiting for the compass to say it's good enough to ever fly, which happens about 1 in 5 times for me. And he still gets weird things. He's doing like a 30k thing on his little boat, and then suddenly something goes wrong and it goes off the shore, and he has to reset it and redo it. And he's like, "Oh, it seems okay now. That was weird." So it's not perfect by any means.
No, nothing is perfect. Absolutely. And let's remember that all of those, every single piece of the software we are using, maybe if not counting the software that drives the VTXs and radio links, some of the radio links and digital FPV, is open source, done by people who just like to do it after probably their full day of work and so on and so on and so on. So you cannot really expect that the software will be flawless, and definitely cannot.
The projects are all, in software terms, pretty recent projects. Even the mature ones that we think of as
ArduPilot is I think 2009.
That's still not
what
old.
we fly started, I think, 2012. This is more or less when MultiWii was created. But then the MultiWii had the reset with the base flight, so let's say 2014, so 8 years, more or less 8 years. And none of the developers that started working on that, I'm not talking about ArduPilot, I'm talking about the MultiWii derivatives. So iNav, Betaflight, ImuFlight. And none of the developers that started working on that is still doing that, absolutely not.
Just compared to kind of other crucial systems like, I don't know, operating systems and like user land software, it's used by used and developed by quite a small number of people, and it's still a relatively recent project. Like the amount of hours put into development and running it are quite small. So it's impressive what it can do.
And operating systems had a chance of being funded by someone. Flight controllers, no, nobody funds flight controllers.
Yeah. Think about all the major companies that started using Linux and then started putting huge amounts of money and resources into developing it as well.
Throw money at it.
That's one.
Linux
is not that bad because somehow Linux has enough of the money to pay the developers and have some stuff. And this is not tragical. What's really tragical are the authors of the Node.js libraries. Everybody uses those libraries on their $1 million companies. Nobody gives a tiny rat's cent of crap to the people that are the foundation of every website you see in the internet.
And then you have someone like the guy who wanted to remove some left trim function and took down half of the world's Node.js dependencies.
Yes, exactly. That's really something to look.
That's what happens when you don't pay your developers, folks.
Well, yeah, if you don't, but are you supposed to pay them or not? Because if you're supposed to pay them and you don't pay them, they leave and never come back.
Robin asks, what gyro is the good gyro now?
BM270, MPU 6000. Cast your votes.
Yep.
6,000, I reckon.
Recently, it doesn't really that much matter. The filtering since those days when 6,500 is much better than 6,000. No, 6,000 is much better than 6,500. There was tremendous progress in filters, and I stopped caring. I absolutely stopped caring about what kind of the gyro I have on my flight controller. If this works, that means it works. Period.
People seem to not really understand what the gyros were doing internally. Seemed to be half the battle. Like, there was a low pass that the MPU 6000 was running, which its competitors didn't run, and people didn't realize that was happening. And so they're like, oh, this is a noisy gyro. But actually, they've got like hardware programmable filters. And one of them was set by the manufacturer to do a low pass, and the other one wasn't. So
main difference between 6,500 and 6,000 was that because of the different structure of those MEMS sensor, which is like crazy technology, by the way. If you ever had some time free, read how those gyros are really built. Incredible stuff. Because it was capable of higher rate sampling, the resonant frequency of that gyro was much lower and it was much noisier. So when like 6 years ago, when the proper filtering on the quads was basically non-existent, if you had this noisier gyro, it really was generating much more noise. But then, let's be honest, nobody hard mounts a flight controller anymore. This is not really happening. Every flight controller you buy has those grommets, and this like takes majority of the vibrations away, and this is fine. And
what about the Bosch? So there was the 6,000 and 6,500, but these days those are effectively all end of life anyway, the entire 6,000 series.
Yeah, so but those ICMs are internally the same.
Okay.
Those ICMs are basically internally the same. And even now you can buy a brand new flight controllers with the MPU 6000.
Well, they say, yeah, that you can buy brand new, but they seem to be built using stockpiles of chips because no one's making the MPU 6000. So they're sitting on a pile of however many thousand chips, but what happens when the pile is gone?
We have those new ICMs. I don't remember like what they are called. The 4226, like
BMI 270, I think.
No, BMI 270 is completely different stuff.
It's a different one. That's
a
gyro.
It's a completely different one. But for example, Radix Brain FPV, Radix 2 is using this gyro. There is Mamba 87 with the BMI 270. I have not used it. I have one over here somewhere in my drawer, but I never flew with it. And the Brain FPV Radix, they say it's such an amazing gyro, so maybe it is such an amazing gyro. Hard to tell, but it's not.
It becomes a religious war, doesn't it? Like neither side really has any evidence, but everyone is completely convinced.
Yeah, something like that. But no, reality is that there are no bad gyros on the market nowadays in terms of the 99% of the pilots that are out there. There are like faulty gyros, but there are no bad gyros right now. They work, but there's something.
There's no bad gyros, but there might be bad gyro drivers in some software.
No, I'm talking that you might have a faulty one. And it's just one of the accesses is just.
I was saying maybe the developers haven't gotten used to the new models. That might be more the problem than the hardware itself.
The drivers for those stuff is relatively simple. There's nothing really that much I can break. I was onto something, but I forgot.
Sorry.
Well, it's like the Lux boards. It was the bad placement of gyros. That was terrible. If you remember the Lumineer Lux boards.
The question is from where they took the stockpile of the MPUs. Nobody knows. Nobody knows how it goes. But this is exactly very similar to the situation we have the magnetometers. The HMC 5883, the most popular magnetometer, is not produced for years because Honeywell just really like stopped producing them. I think even before the FPV really started. And 4 years ago, every single GPS that claimed that has the HMC 5883 had a Chinese, not even a clone, because a clone suggests it's working. It's a knockoff. That was not even working. And right now, what we have, for example, VMC 5883, QMC 5883, and so on, they are just completely new hardware that is somehow compatible with the old AMC and takes the name, but really like internally is a completely different stuff. And like almost all the magnetometers right now are 5883 with only 3 different letters in the beginning. Nobody knows why.
Sorry, I'm just fielding questions on where Tony is and everything in the chat. I don't know.
What about what's Stephen drinking or chewing?
Sorry, my tipple of choice is a glass of bourbon with a lot of maraschino cherries in it, and that's what I was just finishing, all the cherries at the bottom.
Yeah. What's your poison?
It's a tasty
Chewy
poison.
drink.
Yeah. Like the little cherries that come in a jar in syrup. They're very nice. Luxardo,
other
cherries.
glacier. Yeah. Fair enough. Pawel, what have you been up to lately? Is there any like new development, or are you like been flying anything particular? What have you been enjoying yourself with?
I have a Cinelifter, X8 Cinelifter.
I saw the great big camera you put on it. That looks expensive.
With aluminium arms.
Yes, with aluminium arms, exactly, because aluminium is super cheap. By the way, it have not flew with the camera on it yet because of the weather outside. But yeah, it's prepared to take this thing on board, and hopefully everything will survive.
High risk.
Yeah.
Okay.
No,
have you done a flight with a brick on it yet to make sure it handles the weight?
It should be fine. It's super stable in the air without anything on top, and this thing really has so much thrust ready to be used when needed. I lowered the throttle scale to like 60%, and it's still on 60%. Is fully capable of doing the power loops and stuff. So really like an incredible machine. So I really don't expect there will be much problems with carrying something.
What's the kind of power and flight time? Because you get these weird compromises with Octos where you've got the X8, right? You don't quite get double the thrust.
No, I know. No idea. I have not measured because this thing was in the air only like 2 or 3 times because of the weather. I will answer the question about the headset in a moment, by the way. But I think the useful payload for this thing is like 2 kilos, because I expect that it's like weights below 2 kilos, the thrust should be around 10 kilos, so let's say 2 kilos are useful. And the flight time...
excluding the battery or including battery?
Including the battery. But without the camera, the big camera. With camera will be close to 2.5, but still 2 kilos of the usable payload. Flight time, no idea yet. I kinda, when I checked the footage, then there was something like 8 minutes of the FPV footage from that, with like cruising with the 50 kilometers per hour. So let's say maybe 12 minutes of hover, maybe slightly less, maybe slightly more. I will have to check when I will have the opportunity. But should be fine. And the headset is the SteelSeries Arctica 5, I think. Very good headphones. I have 2 of those, and I like them.
So when the weather... Sorry, Jack.
No, mate.
So when the weather improves, is that going to be the main project to fly? And are you going to film anything special, or is there any other projects coming up that you want to do this year, or strange or interesting builds?
I don't know if anybody remembers, but last year I did this, the motion
controller.
the
fake DJI controller.
Yeah, exactly. I'm working on a better version without the cable that connects you to your radio. It will be wireless with slightly changed, and I think the joystick is broken again. Okay, and I'm doing a glider, little glider, with the A-tail, twin motor A-tail, and no idea when I will finish that thing, but I'm doing this thing, so we will see.
Have you recovered from, like, earlier on in the years? You were saying about YouTube's, dying, and the views and that have gone down.
Yes and no. Yes and no. Okay. The November, December were really like a nightmare in terms of views, and I think that Kari can confirm that no, it's not looking great in terms of views.
It's all bad.
Yes, exactly. It's bad.
I can whinge further by being a reviewer. I can say that any affiliate sales are almost non-existent for me at the moment.
I removed even affiliate links from my videos. They are giving nothing.
Wow, nothing works.
Why to have them? I just like today, all gone. My channel is right now, let's say, recovering, but I not only suffered from the less interest of the viewers, less views in general in our niche, but also somewhere around September I removed the top 10 of my best videos because they were not RC or FPV related, and I moved them to a completely different channel. So one day I lost 25% of the views. Done, no more. I checked the stats for the January, and the January was roughly the same as half a year ago, and there's growth comparing to the December, November, but this is probably because I started making shorts. And guess what?
I saw a lot more output come from you. There's a lot more kind of catchy thumbnails and stuff coming from
I'm not that's also that's also because if you don't have a catchy thumbnail, nobody will watch your videos, no matter what you do. You have to have the space.
Oh, this is the reality. How many times did you practice? Do you get your wife to tell you?
Can we have
more?
No, can we have the face again? Okay, perfect. We'll use that. Yeah.
No, but this is the reality. If you don't have the catchy thumbnail, nobody will click on your video. I'm not sure if my thumbnails are that much better, because the YouTube shows you how clickable your thumbnails are. But I'm not really comparing everything. But let's say there is a growth in the slowly. But I really do wonder how all this shorts will end up, because right now, for example, in my case, the shorts are 10% of the views. Of course, the watch time is non-existent, and there's no monetization of the shorts, and so on and so on and so on. And I wonder, on the longer run, how those shorts, which are super simple to shoot, to be honest, you only have to have an idea of something or some footage. FPV shoot, do a quick montage. It's
almost taking zero editing.
5 minutes. And you put it there, and you have views. Constantly you have views, and people are slowly subscribing. I wonder how this on the longer run will convert to a new user base. No idea. But
so this is like fishing with the shorts. You're fishing for new audience.
Yes, exactly.
See, I've been very much anti-shorts, but now Pawel's saying oh, people are coming quietly. Do I start casting my rods? I think it could go downhill. We'll all end up on TikTok doing dances before we know it.
Oh, Curry's dance moves. That's what we want next.
I have an account on TikTok, by the way.
Man. Just get...
doing dances. No, I think, Curry, you should try it, because, like I said, it's relatively cheap. If you have some kind of any footage, like cut it in 15 seconds, throw it in. And we know that YouTube likes to suggest materials of the creators you previously watched. So if a person will like see your short for 2 times, then maybe it will start suggesting your other videos. This is how I'm like trying to rationalize this thing. Maybe I don't know. I'm experimenting. I'm checking. Who knows?
Yeah. Well, we'll ask you if you're in any dance classes next time.
Yeah.
I was taking dance classes.
Get your daughter Curry to TikTok dance with you. Can you imagine, like, let's try now on a short? We got like 1 minute to interview Pawel. Hey, Pawel, what's new? 40.0 done.
Raging Sparrow.
Yeah, I know. Just
I have to write that down, by the way. I have to write that down because I will forget about the Raging Sparrow.
Yeah.
You see, we already decided it's a name. It's a catchy name. Okay, Raging Sparrow.
Nice. Caroline brings up a good point. All the things I've seen on shorts is like a vertical video. Literally, they're trying to be TikTok. Do you have to film it in portrait mode? Because that offends me greatly. Can you have landscape?
Shorts have to be in vertical.
I'm pretty sure you can tell how old someone is by whether vertical video offends them or not. There's like a cutoff.
And
if it offends you, you're officially old. Well, that means you're very old.
Well, I am very old, but that means I have the right
offended.
to be cranky.
I'm quite old, and you're very offended. It means you're older than I am.
The trouble is, he grew up with CRT 4x3, and now he's like 16:9, and he's all like just got over that, and now he's like vertical video.
Ladies and gentlemen, I hated and I still hate vertical video. I think it's not how the video should be consumed. If and only if you have a vertical screen in front of your face. But I'm catching myself that I'm consuming more of the video on my smartphone comparing to what I'm consuming of the video materials in front of my PC. On the couch, like seeing something. And this is... I hate vertical video, but if I want to have new viewers, I have to take compromises. And one of those compromises is I'm from time to time recording a vertical short, which is a 100% short, only to be consumed on the smartphone. This video, I'm not even sure that YouTube is very much promoting vertical videos on desktop. I honestly doubt. I almost never see anything in my home screen on the YouTube. Only
you're on a
for
slippery
those
slope.
People like that.
You're just one step away from TikTok dancing. We warn you. And I think Caroline has an excellent comment that made me laugh, which says, "I'm 60, but my wrist still works." Yes, you can still do that. Turn the phone the correct way for doing it.
I know, but on this area, the smartphone is just nicer because now I'm like stooping, brain freezing, brain fart, like I can something interesting. I will watch it like that.
Same.
I can, in theory, do the same with the LCD I have over here, but it's not really the same.
All right, no worries. Right, we've come up to our mark. Thank you, guys. You've been listening to Let's Drone Out and enjoying our wonderful show. Thank you to all our Patreons. Thank you to everyone. Well, Caroline, who donated during the show. Thank you to everyone who showed up and all your lovely comments in the chat. Tonight, you've been joined by everyone's favourite Curry Kidden.
Goodbye.
Everyone's shiny video stuff, Stephen.
Thank you, everyone.
Everyone's favourite Raging Sparrow, Pawel. And I've been Brighton to Life Live. Thank you very much. Tune in next week. We've got Sync FPV. And after that, it'll be interesting to hear what the week after we've got Painless 360. It'll be interesting to see whether he gets on board with the vertical video shorts. But,
whether he can dance.
Yeah, he's even older than me.
He can dance as well as Pawel.
I don't like it.
I can't dance.
Anyway, thank you guys and good night.
Thank you very much. It was a pleasure, like always.
Bye.